What's up? This is Alex Yemeck. Welcome back to Bold once more here at UST, where we interview Avery Kelts. Whether you are an alumni or a current UST student, a Celt is a Celt. So we are all happy. And most importantly, here at Bold, we interview bold Celts. So today, once more, we are back with Judge Michael Landrum. The last time we interviewed him, he wasn't a judge and he was running. He's running again, although he is a judge now. And he was appointed by the governor in the 164th district in Harris County. He's a civil judge. He's going to give us a little bit more information about that. Welcome back, Judge Michael Landrum.
Thanks for having me back. Glad to be here.
All right. We're always happy to see that our UST families, whether you are an alumni or current student, are doing very well. You are representing us very well. We are very happy to have you. So we're going to dive right in. Can you just remind us a little bit about your appointment in your court and just a little resume about that?
Sure, I'd be glad to. As you may or may not remember, I was a judge in a civil district court back in 2013 through 2018. I lost the 2018 general election, and so then I went back to private practice of law. This summer, the incumbent judge in the 164th district court resigned. And once that resignation came through, then Governor Abbott appointed me to fill the vacancy. That means I'm the judge of this court until December the 31st. Now, because I am the nominee in the election on November the 3rd, if enough people vote to keep me here, then after December the 31st, then I'll stay on for another 4-year term.
All right. Thank you very much, Judge Landrum, for reminding us that, yes, it is true that you were already a judge and you came back and you're running. So after we exchange today, people will have a better understanding of who you are and what your understanding and what you do in your court. So let's go right into it. So I have my first question here. We are in a year of a lot of unrest in the country. We're talking about COVID-19 is like the biggest unrest this year. But other than that, we did have also things like the police brutality that we've seen out there, all right, and which kind of bring us directly into the justice system as well. We see a lack of trust within our government, our institutions, right? And as a judge, I kind of wanted to ask you this. So we have, for example, with the George Floyd case that came out, we know that there's going to be a criminal case, but there's also going to be a civil case. So let's say, for example, you're a civil judge in a civil court, and you get a case like that comes to you saying, hey, George Floyd was killed based on racism. Right. I'm insisting a lot on that because this is what we hear a lot on the street. So we just want people to be a little bit more educated about the justice system. What type of evidence as a judge, right, in this court would you want to see for you to really lock that in to say, yes, this was racially motivated? Because it's very important, because we know that it's different when we talk about being in the justice system and when we see something out there. We just see things happening, but we don't know exactly laws and how that works in the justice system. So what will be your advice on the type of, let's say, evidence you would want to see in order for you to say, yes, this case in a civil court, it looks like it was racism?
Well, Alex, you ask a lot of questions all together. So let me start out with this. Criminal cases and civil cases are different in many different ways, and most people do not really understand the difference. First of all, in a criminal case, the complaining party is the government. It is the state of Texas against the defendant. Now think about that. Think about how a defendant must feel at a disadvantage when the government, this huge body, is against that one individual. And also remember that in a criminal case, that individual who is accused stands the risk of losing his or her liberty, or in extreme cases, life. So the stakes are very high. Because of that, we require a very high level of proof to convict someone of a crime. That is what you hear on television. The burden of proof is beyond a reasonable doubt. So in those cases, the jury is instructed that if you feel that there is no reasonable doubt that the defendant committed this crime, then you must convict the defendant. But that's a hard burden to make, because there are all kinds of doubts that people may have. Now, as long as if those doubts are reasonable, then the jury must acquit the defendant and let the defendant go, let the defendant off of those criminal charges. In a civil lawsuit, the complaining party is the injured person against the person who did the harm. In this case, if someone wrongly caused the death of another, the complaining party are the survivors of the person who was killed. But that's an individual versus another individual, right? And in a civil lawsuit, there is no possibility of imprisonment or death penalty or anything like that. The relief that is granted to a successful complaining party is usually just money. Mm-hmm. So the burden of proof is relaxed. The burden of proof in a civil case is that the complaining party must prove by what we call a preponderance of the evidence that the defendant actually caused the death of the person. And a preponderance of the evidence means that the truth of the matter is more likely than unlikely. So it's not that heavy burden that we see in a criminal case. Now, what kind of evidence do we have in civil cases where someone is accused of a death? The evidence is usually something along the lines of most death cases in this that we see here usually involve deaths relating from traffic accidents. But we do have them where they were the result of an intentional assault. Someone beats someone up with their fists or a weapon, or they stab them or shoot them. Those two are both criminal and civil claims. The jury can hear all kinds of evidence, and you can't say that the same evidence will apply in all cases, but the jury will hear whatever the evidence is. Perhaps the complaining party says, there was no provocation, that the defending party just all of a sudden jumped out and caused harm. But usually it's more like the offending party was driving while drunk, or was driving and was texting or doing something else that caused him or her to not pay attention, and that caused the car to run into somebody, maybe a pedestrian, something like that. There are, and really, there are all kinds of ways that can happen, but there is no special civil claim for causing someone's injury or death because of racial motivation. The criminal statutes do allow to enhance the possible punishment for a hate crime, okay? If someone does something to someone else because of racial or other categories, that can enhance a criminal penalty. But in a civil case, if you didn't have a justifiable reason to cause harm to another person, you are liable to that person or to that person's heirs for the harm you did. Now, if the harm was caused intentionally or maliciously, which is what it would be in your scenario, that gives the jury the possibility of awarding punitive damages. Okay, so if you lose someone, your actual damages might be, gee, that was the breadwinner for the family, and we have lost now that income, that support and that love and affection from the person who is no longer with us. Those are your actual damages. But punitive damages are in addition to that, and punitive damages are awarded simply to punish someone who has done something because they were acting maliciously, they were acting intentionally and meant to cause the harm, or even if they were what we call grossly negligent. That is to say, the negligence is so bad, the neglect is so bad that no rational person could innocently have done that. Then a jury may, under certain circumstances, award additional money, and those are the cases where you see the real large dollar amounts, because punitive damages can get very large. Those are really the distinctions between the two kinds of cases and what we would face in a civil case for a death.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very happy because you really touched on the point that I wanted to hear. You really detailed and made a difference here. I'm smiling a little bit because I heard a report on I think it was the Breonna Taylor case, the lady where the officers kind of went into her room, her house, and then killed her, and I believe one the husband or the boyfriend. And I heard that it was settled with some about, I don't know, $12 million or something like that. And so I was hearing people saying, oh, that's hush money, and that's hush money. So when you bring the difference with the civil lawsuit and the criminal lawsuit, it kind of educate us on, hey, look, it's not about, trying to keep them quiet or anything like that. There is a civil lawsuit going on and there's a criminal lawsuit going on. So it wouldn't look like hush money, right?
Well, sometimes it is hush money. Let's face it. But not if it goes all the way to trial before a jury. But that can happen in settlement cases, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Because the court will not prohibit someone from speaking. That's an infringement of the First Amendment right to free speech. But you can sign that away, and if someone pays you to sign away your rights to talk about the case or talk about the other side, that's a matter of contract between private individuals.
Yeah. No, this is very good information. That way people, it doesn't look like, people get upset and they're like, no, they're not going to do anything. And all these things are going on. It's very important to say. And with all that information that you're giving us, right? Because the truth is that there is a lack of trust, right, out there in our justice system, right? And there's a lack of trust with our police, basically the entire system. What would you recommend? How can we, right, as in your government, because you're not a politician, judges are not politicians, they're not, we barely hear from judges anyway. We always hear from the Congress, or we hear from the executive branch, but it's very difficult to hear from judges because they are not politicians, so they're not always out there talking about these things. How would you advise us, right, especially in these times where things are difficult? How can you advise the country to, cooperate and understand a little bit how this system works? How can we gain that trust again in our justice system?
Well, Alex, in these days, that's a really, really good question. It's an important question. You're correct. The judicial branch of the government is not a political branch in the same way that the executive branch and the legislative branch is. And that extends in so many directions. A judge can't promise to lower your taxes. A judge can't promise to fix the potholes in the streets. All that a judge can do is promise to be fair and to hear both sides. We have in our courts an adversary system. This is not a case where judges are all knowing. We're not Solomon. People don't come in and the judge just decides. Both sides get a chance to be heard. And that's, I think, a strength of our system. But let's face it, our system is not always perfect. We have let people down throughout our history. And so we must work tirelessly to be sure that we don't do that, except, we try not to do it ever. And so that's why we have to do it. Now, how do we restore faith in our system? Well, let's face it. Most people believe that the meaning of the word justice is what happens when your side wins in the courthouse. And protesters say, you know, there's no justice if somebody isn't charged with a crime and convicted of the crime. Or they may say there's no justice if a jury doesn't send someone to prison. Well, the real meaning of justice is whether or not both sides have had a fair opportunity to put on their evidence and that evidence to be decided by a neutral, disinterested, unbiased third party. That's why we have juries. You know, people may or may not trust a certain judge because that certain judge may be from a certain community or may have had a past career involving the subject matter or something. But, you know, we bring jurors in from the community, people who have no stake in the outcome of a civil or a criminal case, and we ask them to give their time. They're paid very little to give their time and to be fair. And we make every effort we can to be sure that they hear all of the evidence that our system allows them to hear and to let them independently make a decision. We as Americans have got to have faith in that system. What justice is when the system works. It doesn't guarantee anyone an outcome in any given case, but it does guarantee that everyone is entitled to have a fair say. Now, our courts and our judges have gotten a lot of attention, and a lot of politics have gotten involved in the news media. But judges are prohibited from going on television and talking about a case. And that's a good thing. That is so that we don't appear to be taking sides, or that we favor one side or we favor a different side, because we make thousands of decisions every year. And sometimes those are tough decisions. They're not always easy. And we want to be sure that we have people who are independent, who can make those decisions without being accused of doing something wrong. Judges are human beings and they do make mistakes. And that's why we have appellate courts. If I make a bad decision that's not completely in line with the proper law, then someone can appeal my decision. And they can take it to a panel of other judges who are specialists in appellate law. And so they decide on appeal if I've made a mistake. If I have, they send it back to me with instructions to make it right. If they decide I did it right, then my judgment stands. We have a lot of safeguards built into our judicial system. And really, we, in our judiciary, we rely on the good faith and the confidence of the people. We work hard to earn that. And without that confidence, you know, judges don't have a police force. We don't have an army where we can enforce what we say. We rely on the people to stand behind us.
Yeah. Yes, this is very important, and I wanted to mention that because I've heard people before say, "Hey, I got pulled over by police just because I was driving a nice car," and I usually tell people, I say, "Look, if you get into this type of situation, if you think it was unfair, why don't you go to court, right? Go fight it in court, right? If that was really what happened." So, in the spirit of de-escalation, right? As a judge, because it's pretty hot out there. We have police officers who are, doing a tough work out there. And we also have the people who are meeting these police officers and engaging into these conversation and in these exchanges. Where I come from, they say, yes, if both sides may be right, but both sides may also be wrong on how they are escalating the situation. What would be like your advice on de-escalation? What can we, not just the police, but also we as people, we can do to de-escalate when we get into this? Because really, that's why the court is there for. If there's an argument, go to court, right? And what can you say about that?
Well, you hit the nail right on the head, Alex. You have to trust the system. Unfortunately, you also have to do a little bit of work to get into the system and to let the system work for you. And in the classic example you mentioned about a traffic stop, you're correct. And I told my son when he was just a beginning driver, I said, now if a police officer pulls you over, you be polite, you talk to the police officer, don't argue, because out there in the world, in the street, that's the police officer's realm, and they're in control. If you feel like you've been mistreated, then we'll go to the courthouse and we'll tell a judge or a jury that you were mistreated. That's what our system is set up to do. I wish that all police officers were perfect human beings. Many of them are pretty darn good people. They have a tough job, like you said. And so, the last thing we need is for people to make things more difficult. I wish everyone had the patience of Job. Unfortunately, we're human beings. And so that's why we have these systems in place.
Yeah. Yes, this is very helpful. As we are going toward our last 8 minutes of the show, one thing that I wanted to do, I wanted to give you the opportunity, because you're running in November. So I kind of wanted to give you the opportunity to kind of talk to, of course, our USTs and everybody who are going to watch us. Who are you? Why should they vote for you? Now, the first thing I would say is that I've known your wife as being a wonderful woman. She helped my parish, and maybe what 2,000 members of this parish coming out of a very difficult situation, very strong Christian women. And we are all USTs, we're Catholics, so we can, I can give many reasons why I would love to see you there in court, right? But I want you to kind of convince like our UST families and everybody else who hear us, what are you offering? Why should we vote for you?
Thank you, Alex. Well, it's hard to know. We have so many judges on our ballots in November that we vote for, and so many people say, "Gee, I don't know them, and so I just don't vote in those elections." Some people just vote on the basis of the party affiliation. Both attitudes are incorrect. Again, as citizens, as free citizens, we need to do a little bit of work. We need to learn a little bit about our candidates. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to introduce myself to our UST community. As you say, I'm a graduate of UST. I'm a graduate of the University of Texas Law School. During my career before I became a judge, I represented all kinds of people and businesses in all kinds of civil matters, which are the same kind of cases that I hear as a judge. I've represented people on both sides of cases, the plaintiffs and the defendants. I've represented people who had a lot of money and people who had no money. Sometimes I did that for free, and that's good. That's what lawyers need to do to help our society and to help our system. One of the best things I've gotten to do is I've gotten to mentor young law students and young lawyers to help them be better lawyers, help them understand our system. I have worked hard to become knowledgeable in the law and the rules and such as that. And I've been awarded a board certification, a specialist certification in my field of civil trial law. As I mentioned before, if someone's dissatisfied, they can go and take their case up to the appellate courts. Well, I'm also a board certified specialist in civil appellate law. So I've worked hard to become knowledgeable. But the real thing is this: to be a good judge, to be a good person, but to be a good judge, one must have respect. And that is unvarnished. You can't have a little bit of respect. You have to have complete respect. Respect for the law, because I've taken an oath to uphold the law. Respect for the people, because people come to court and they are under great stress and they're concerned, they're scared to death. And so they deserve to be treated with respect, just as all human beings deserve to be treated with respect. Respect for the lawyers, because because we expect lawyers to be professional and to know their business. And so we must respect that. And perhaps most of all, respect for the jurors. These are, as I say, they're people who come from all walks of life to come here and to help us do our job for you. And so we show respect by being prepared so that we don't waste anyone's time. People have a right to expect that if they do have a matter in court, that they don't wait years and years. Some judges are less diligent than others, but I make it a point to always be diligent because I know it affects real people. We have big cases, meaning lots of money, and we have cases involving a little bit of money. But that respect says that in every case that comes up, that is the most important case to the people in it. And so I need to treat that case as the most important case while I'm hearing it. That's me. That's about what I can tell you.
Wow. Yes, thank you very much, Judge. For us as UST family, we will be really happy to see a UST member up there in the court. And today you are a judge in a civil court. Tomorrow you can be a Supreme Court judge. Who knows, right? This is where we start. So I wish you all the best in your endeavor as you are pursuing this really important position for us, all of us Americans as a society. We want to see our justice system better. We want to see people of faith, people who respect others. And like I say, from the little bit of time that I have known your family, your wonderful wife, I can vouch and say that, she has done great work. And they say behind every successful man, there is a great woman standing by. So, so I know that with her by your side, you guys are a wonderful family, and I can only wish you the best. To finish, if you don't have anything else to say, would you have one more last word?
I do, Alex. Thank you.
Yes.
And you're right. My wife is a fabulous woman, and we stand side by side, and I'm proud to have her, that she puts up with me. If your people would like to know more about me, they can look at my website, which is judgelandrum.com.
All right, that's wonderful. So judgelandrum.com. Yes, this is very important. We need to know about the people that we are electing. So and I really wish that people will learn about you and know about you. So thank you very much, Judge Landrum. All the best to you. Good luck. Really wish that you can win. I really wish that you win because I know you and your family. And I wish that people will listen and go out there and vote and make the best decision in this election. So this was Bold. My name is Alex Yemeck. Thank you very much for joining us again. See you next time.